I'm Heidi Hubling. I'm COO of the Preccelerator program here at Stubbs Alderson Marketing. And Preccelerator is right where you're sitting in this entire office. We're a law firm first and foremost, a business law firm. Everything from incorporation and M&A, public securities, tax, business litigation, we will need that. And we also consider ourselves an innovative law firm. So about 5 years ago, we founded the Preccelerator program, which is housed out of the Santa Monica office where you're sitting. And there's normally pods of tables where companies sit. We've had 27 companies go through the program, 22 of which have graduated. 16 of which of those 22 have gotten seed funding. A few more than that coming with the current class of probably 18 or 19 folks. And then some have gotten pre-seed funding. Out of those, only 2 or 3 of them are now defunct. So we've had really, for those really early stage companies, we've had really great success with providing them a foundation, a runway to provide resources to cut overhead expenses, provide them with education, legal services, to help build them a great foundation so that they can get to that next level. So we actually are currently accepting, had our last application period ended June 1st. I haven't yet made final selections for the July 17th class, so if you know of any companies that you want to refer for that class, I'm still eager to accept those applications, and I can interview them in the next couple of weeks through referrals only. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over. We have Matt Swider of TechRadar, who's one of my longtime friends. We used to play volleyball together down in Hermosa Beach, and Michael Schneider, who is now of Service, but formerly of Mobile Roadie. I'm excited to hear about your story and all of the highs and lows of his career and about entrepreneurship and some of the lessons that he's learned along the way.
Great. So I'm Matt, and I'm going to interview Michael right here. And so you're the CEO of Service, which is a company that helps people out with customer service when they have to wait on hold, and that's a really unique idea. I want to get into that, and also you have the app company that Heidi mentioned with high-profile clients like Disney and Rolling Stone. But can you tell me about your entrepreneurial background and how you got started with this stuff?
Yeah, sure. It probably started when I was about 8 years old and on vacation with my parents, and my father was an attorney. Was kind of pacing on the beach we were on in Hawaii, just couldn't relax because he billed by the hour and wasn't billing. And I was like really young, but it made a huge impression on me because like, what's the point of working so hard when you go on vacation and you're stressed out to be on vacation because you're not billing by the hour? You always hear the phrase, make money while you sleep. But attorneys don't do that, and doctors don't do that, and accountants don't do that, and all these professions that are supposedly the safe path in life that set you up for a nice house and nice retirement, that doesn't work for that. And so that's probably when it started. I started a video game company when I was 15 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. This is going to date me, but it was when, if you had a really cool AOL screen name, it was sort of like having a good domain name. Maybe now a good name in the App Store. And I had used Game, which was not an easy screen name to get. And I couldn't drive yet, but I'd get my parents to drive me around to different video game stores and talk to these people about the internet and websites and putting their inventory online, and they had no idea what I was talking about. This is like 1996. But they're like, sure, kid, you're gonna, take our stuff and give us money? Like, sure, you can do whatever you're saying right now and go do it. And I did, and I think I earned like 8 or 10 grand in the summer, which when you're 15 years old, it's like you're a billionaire. And, that's sort of the beginning. It's been a long road. That was 20 years ago.
What was the breakout moment for you when you were getting your start and probably after the video game era, which I also grew up in, and I'm with you on that. What was the breakout success for you that really defined what you do now?
I don't know if there was one breakout success. I guess when you start a company and you realize that people actually want what you have, even a few people, it's really exciting. Even going back to the video game company, I mean, anyone remembers, anyone know what an ISDN line was? I convinced my parents to get me one. It was one of the first kids on my street to have that. And I remember getting a complaint. Like someone called and their Nintendo cartridge didn't work or whatever the problem was. But I was so excited to get a call. It's my company, and I don't care if they're like upset or I'll fix it, you know, whatever their issue is. But like I created something and I put it online, and someone just picked up the phone and called me. Like I felt important. And so, yeah, I don't know if there was one breakout moment, but it was the idea that I could create something that even a few people cared about, that I could make it on my own. I started the company, by the way, because my father wanted me to get a job. Perfectly reasonable thing to ask a 16-year-old kid to do. And I remember going to his office and saying to him, I don't want to get a job. And he's like, well, he thought I was being egotistical. Like, it's not beneath you, go bag groceries, go, earn your stripes. And I was like, well, if I keep myself occupied and make some money, but do it my way, is that okay? And he had to think about it, and he eventually said yes, and that's what the video game company. But yeah, I don't know if there's one moment. It's just realizing that people care about something that you did, and if it's a few people, that gives you the confidence to build more, and then a few more people care, and then you should feel good about it.
Right. So video games were a big passion of yours back then. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, video games were a passion, but that parlayed itself into a web design company. There's a company up the street. The CEO is Ophir Tans. It's Gum Gum. He and I went to high school together, and we were sitting around and said, this internet thing is doing well, and the video game thing was cool. It wasn't going to be a big thing. Well, actually, in hindsight, it probably would have been like the original biggest video game set on the internet if I just stuck with it. But hindsight's 2020, and we started building websites for others. And it was an incredible era because you could have a proposal on you that said a website was going to cost $5,000 or $10,000, whatever the number was, and you could virtually add a zero just before you walked into the room, and it was okay a lot of the time. Like, no one knew what a website was supposed to cost. No one knew how long it should take. No one knew what technology to use, and so it was the wild, wild west, and you're like, 10 grand, 20, 50, 100 grand, whatever. And a lot of people would just pay it, and so that was the second company.
Do you know of an industry out there, because that was just emerging at the time, that is sort of like that everybody should kind of get in on, all these startups, because it was the Wild West back in the day. I remember those days well, but
An industry now?
Is there an industry now that's kind of like that?
I mean, the App Store was certainly that way when we started Mobile Roadie. We started 8 months after the App Store itself, and it was truly the Wild Wild West. Same thing, how much should an app cost? I don't know, 10 or 100 grand, somewhere big. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies right now that's super interesting, and you read about people raising hundreds of millions of dollars overnight with ICOs. It's this whole world that I don't fully understand, but that seems super interesting.
It's almost like a fantasy world out there, that these digital wallets are out there, and people are, either donating or collecting money somehow through, a QR code.
It seems really sketchy, and QR codes weren't that cool in like 2009 when they started, but somehow that came together and it's working.
Right, yeah. I'll get a QR code if it makes me a lot of money.
Sure.
It's not a bad idea.
Why not?
Top influencers. Who was a top influencer besides your dad pacing back and forth in Hawaii? Who really had an influence on you as an entrepreneur?
There's a guy in Orange County named Bob Teller. He started the Orange County Marketplace. It's an old school business, swap meets. Swap meets are 100 years old, or swap meets. And I was a senior at USC, graduated by the skin of my teeth, and there's a guy that came in and talked, and we had an assignment to go interview an entrepreneur. And I called him, and he said, well, you can't do me because I spoke in your class, the teacher doesn't want that, but I'm going to refer you to my mentor. And it was this guy. And I went down there, and the guy is truly just really rough around the edges. You will sit there with him, and he will deconstruct you in a way that makes you very vulnerable, but also challenges you and gets you to think about what you're really doing, what you're really saying. Does it make any sense? And so, Bob and I developed this relationship where I would go down there and he would make me feel about this tall. But by the end of it, I felt not only built back up, but stronger and had a better sense of purpose. So he was a big influence. We haven't been in touch as much, but about 10 years ago, we were talking quite a bit. So he was a big influence. I don't know, I was a pretty nerdy kid. I thought Bill Gates was God when I was 12 or 13. typical guys like Branson and people like that. But now I think it's more about, I'm more inspired by people that survive. Anyone know who Joe Fernandez is? He built a company called Cloud. If you've heard his story, it's amazing. And he's not a Steve Jobs or a Bill Gates, but he's a successful guy. He spent 9 years building this company called Cloud. And he described, I've heard his story, the near-death experiences. There were like 8 of them or something. And each time you started talking about it, you're like, there's no way he's going to survive that. You know, like they're foreclosing, or half the staff quit, or you know, whatever it was. There was a time when Michael Arrington was more popular on Cloud. Cloud was a platform that ranked people's influence online. And so there was a time when Michael Arrington was more popular than Barack Obama. And he got a lot of shit for that, and just all this stuff. And in the end, at the end of the day, he sold the company for over $200 million and moved to LA and is now doing another company. But hearing that story, like I'm more inspired by him than I am by Branson, because if you've ever heard Branson talk, I don't think he's that inspiring of a speaker, because he doesn't really say anything. It's all very politically correct. That was a real story about a real entrepreneur that went through shit and came out the other side and survived. So it's those type of stories that inspire me.
Very cool. So service, going back to service,
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that because I want to sign up. I may have a bone to pick with Uber or American Airlines, or both of them. Can you tell us about it and how you came up with that idea?
Yeah, so we haven't really publicly announced this yet, but we're not going to help you with Uber anymore, but we can help you with American Airlines.
Very good.
So I'll tell you how it started, and I'll tell you what we're doing now. So the original idea 2 years ago was, raise your hand if you like waiting on hold. So me neither. And wouldn't it be cool if there was a company where you could say what the issue was that you wanted to solve, like in 30 seconds, just say what the issue is, and they'll just go do it for you. You don't have to wait on hold anymore. That was the idea behind service. It could be that your Amazon package arrived late, your Comcast bill is wrong, your flight was delayed on American, and there's all these different kind of customer service categories, and also health insurance issues and many others. So that's when it started, 2 years ago. And we spent a year and a half really kicking ass at doing that. We helped a lot of people. We weren't charging at the time. We were just kind of in learning mode. And we were saving people hundreds, even thousands of dollars for free. And it was working in the sense that that was working, but it wasn't working in the sense that people weren't really coming back. They weren't really telling their friends. And it wasn't sticky. And the company was not going to survive unless we figured that out. So we kind of looked at the whole thing and said, well, what's really working here? Well, we want to use software. Software is super important. I don't want to build out a big call center offshore and solve these issues. So how can we use software to solve people's problems? And the number one way we decided to do that was to figure out when your flight was delayed or canceled without you having to tell us, just by you syncing your inbox. And then automatically filing a claim with the airline, complaining, trying to get you a voucher or miles or some sort of compensation. And the whole process takes less than a minute for you to set up, and then anytime you're delayed or canceled, it just happens, and we only charge you if we get something. That's what we've been doing for the last 3 months. And so if anyone in this room travels a lot, you should download the app. It's called Service. It's totally free to sync your inbox. It's totally free to use, and we literally only charge you when we get you something. Seems like a fair deal. And it's really working. We were doing 30 claims a day 3 months ago. We were kind of on the ropes, and there's days last week we did over 1,000 per day.
Wow.
So it's
That's some growth.
struck a chord.
Yeah, no, it's definitely us. I'm going to download right away. It's only available in the App Store. Was that a challenge, and are you going to expand?
Yeah, within 2 or 3 weeks we're relaunching our website, and we're relaunching both our iOS app and launching the Android app. So
Great.
we're not discriminating.
Great. No Windows app.
No one
No Windows phone.
No BlackBerry app.
Okay. So what's the Los Angeles entrepreneurial scene like? What's that startup scene like? And where do you see the best opportunities? Did you start your businesses in Los Angeles? Are you from the Los Angeles area?
I'm born and raised in LA, which makes me an alien in my own hometown because no one's from here. I was literally born in Santa Monica. Yeah, when I started Mobile Roadie, we started in the clock tower just up the street. Then we went to the Venice Pier, then back to the clock tower, and eventually east. When I was raising money, I started Facebook for Moms in 2007. And when I was raising money for that, this is before Facebook was the Facebook for Hubs. It was closed just for college students. And when I was doing that, I would go up north and pitch VCs, and across the board, everyone would say, when are you going to move up here? There's no real tech talent in LA. You can't build a real company in LA. And the Angelino in me was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. But there was some truth to that. I mean, tech talent was harder to find here. It was harder to maintain, and the best tech talent in the world simply wasn't interested in Los Angeles. And therefore, the VCs were interested in investing in Los Angeles 10 years ago. Today, it's a completely different story. Founders Fund is our main backer. Mavron, ABC, Menlo Ventures. Not one of these guys hesitated because we're in Los Angeles. So I think LA is in the renaissance of tech is in a renaissance, absolutely. Most of the activity is in Santa Monica and Venice. It's expanding in Culver City, but there's stuff in downtown, there's stuff in Hollywood. We happen to be in a weird place in Beverly Hills where there's a co-working space and a lot of tech companies there too. So I think LA is, I'm loving LA.
Right. They call it Silicon Beach.
I know.
Are you fan of that name?
I don't love the name. I think some people think of it and we're like hanging out at the beach all day or surfing. I'll tell you, when we moved into the clock tower, it's a block from the ocean. So I'm like, I'm gonna, take walks on the ocean or go have lunch on the beach or do something. I didn't do it once. You're just busy. So I don't love the name.
Right. Makes sense. Where would you suggest drawing inspiration besides watching, the Steve Jobs movie or the Social Network on repeat? Where are real places that people can draw inspiration in the startup scene?
Draw inspiration. I think real people's stories, like I mentioned, are inspiring. Things like this, where you get to hear someone's story and ask questions, I found inspiring. There's so many good books. I mean, it seems like everyone who's even created a moderately successful company has written a book these days. But I find people's stories just fascinating. So I read probably a book a month. It's not all biographies, but just read and listen to people's stories. Okay.
When you have that brilliant idea and you have an app or whatever business that you're in, especially apps, and an Apple or Google or whatever field you're in, a bigger company comes in and kind of tries to claim that territory. Easily someone could just invent something like service. What do you do then? Like, what's your best defense and how do you survive?
Companies are killed much more by suicide than homicide, and you have to remember that. There's a great story by Dennis Crowley, who's the founder of Foursquare. Facebook, I think everyone knows what Foursquare is. Facebook launched Facebook Places. It was a complete ripoff of Foursquare. You could check in, you could see other friends that were there, you could get recommendations. And he tells the story of when Facebook launched Facebook Places that day, at Foursquare headquarters in New York, it was a total panic. Everyone thought they were out of a job, the company was over, they had no reason to exist because Facebook's this huge company coming into your space. Well, what happened? Facebook still has Facebook Places, you can still check in. Foursquare is doing better than it ever has. It's a completely different business, it's focused. And I would say that focus is what matters. Yeah, anyone can do service, but if you don't find the focus in the niche that you're really good at, it doesn't matter. And if you get too distracted by what your competitors are doing, you're going to die.
Okay. Are you the exception to the rule? Sometimes when Apple or Google comes out with something and puts it in their smartphone, it immediately takes off, where if you have a third-party app, it's really hard to get traction these days because everybody has to download it. It's not automatically in their system. Are you the exception to the rule, and do you have any suggestions for someone who's trying to create a third-party app out there that's trying to get traction?
I think we're an exception. I mean, I don't think Apple is going to create a customer service app on their next phone. I could be wrong, but I think that's a stretch. If you're creating a camera app with filters, that's a really crowded space, and there's nothing to stop Apple or Google from just building into the camera. There was an app called Flashlight, and then iOS 7, you swipe up and turn on your flashlight. There's apps like that, and I think you need to make sure that you're adding enough value to the world that you have a right to exist, even if a big guy comes into the space. And Flashlight app probably wasn't, and Foursquare is adding much more value to Facebook Places, and they have a right to exist.
Okay. There's a conflicting idea of always don't ask the customer what they want, and go with what you think is right. That's definitely, the Apple way of doing things. And then there's, incorporating feedback. What's the right design approach to a product?
I would never ask users about design, because I don't think the general public as a whole has great design taste. From a product point of view, I think you have to show people something great. If we had surveyed our users when Service was trying to figure out our niche and say, what if we had an email system that synced with your inbox and did all this stuff? People would look at it, I don't know, maybe. I mean, people don't pay enough attention to give you constructive feedback. So I'm a big believer in simplifying it to the point where it's very easy to digest, and then putting it in front of people, and you'll know quickly if they like it or not. But I'm not a big believer in building the product by consensus.
Okay. So Apple, Google, they're probably not going to create an app like yours, but they have, and especially Facebook, they have AI coming and trying to handle your requests either through, Facebook does it through people, but a lot of it's automated with Google Assistant.
Yeah.
Do you fear that, or do you think that's not a threat to you, or how can you overcome it if you do think it's a threat?
I don't think it's a threat to us now. I'll tell you that for about 6 months last year, we were distracted. I went on a trip last June and came back and I was convinced that direct-to-consumer wasn't our future. We were going to build a chatbot, and I wasn't doing it because chatbots were trendy and buzzy. I was doing it because I saw an opportunity to go into any company and say, this chatbot will lop off 30% of your customer service volume. So if you go into a large company, that's a lot of calls and a lot of emails that they don't have to deal with. And it's going to understand what the people are asking, and it's going to respond the right way, and it's just going to be great. While we were working on this, Facebook launched something very similar in Messenger. Now they started simpler. They said, well, businesses and consumers can communicate through Messenger. But then they started adding tools. Here's the returns module. So if you're an e-commerce company, here's how to process a return through Messenger. And started adding more and more. We didn't not launch that because of Facebook, but that would have been very scary if we had stayed on that path. So yeah, I think if you're building something that relies on AI, I mean, what we learned from that is 80% of the way is relatively easy. There's deep learning frameworks and there's things you can do to build a bot that understands more or less what you're asking. The problem in what we were doing is the last 20% is more than half the work. If someone says LinkedIn was going to be a beta customer, and we were talking to them, but the problem is you can't beta customer service. So if someone says, I want to close my dad's LinkedIn page, he just died, and the boss says, okay, would you like to upgrade today? That's a PR nightmare, right? And so it's just risky to get wrong. And this is an area where the big players have a huge advantage because they have a lot of money and they have a lot of hardware and they can do these computations much faster. Now, having said all that, Google is open source TensorFlow. There are all sorts of AI frameworks out there that are created by the big guys that are given to the public and you can use. So it's sort of a double-edged sword for these big guys in AI.
Right, a lot of people don't realize that stuff is out there for them.
Yeah.
And I guess like the successful people who can take advantage of it and do, end up becoming successful for that reason. But there, another way to go about, starting a business is seeking money these days on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. How do you feel about that change instead of going to a VC or getting a bank loan back in the day?
I think it's a cool idea in theory that you could just sell your way into funding your business. I personally have bought a lot of Indiegogo and Kickstarter projects that I just never got my money for the product. Like that just happens. There's a smart suitcase company that's done, called Blue Smart, that's done very well and started in Indiegogo. But there's remember that Coolest Cooler? It was like at the time, the most successful Kickstarter campaign ever. It was like 12 million or 15 million bucks or something insane. And it was a cooler. I mean, it was a smart cooler. Like, it had a built-in speaker and it had a built-in charging thing for your phone. And I don't know, there were a few other things, but it was a cooler. And I'm almost positive what happened there is they raised all this money and they didn't have enough money to do all the tooling to ship all the coolers, even though it was the most successful project of all time. So I don't know, money doesn't solve scaling all the time, and I think it only works for certain things.
I think that cooler is being sold on Amazon or somewhere and being delivered to people who bought it there before the actual backers were getting it in some cases.
Probably.
So that, yeah.
Because they already got that money, but they need new money to build the coolers for the backers.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, that's an interesting contradiction for people who want to invest in these dream projects for a lot of people. But how about the opposite of that, where someone has a really great idea and they think they can fulfill that idea, but they fail to meet their goals and they don't get the money in the end. With Kickstarter, you don't get the money unless you reach that goal. What's an alternative plan these days?
I mean, I think money is really commodity these days. There are, by the way, the word pre-seed did not exist up until a few years ago. Like, just to give everybody some context, when I started Mobile Roadie, we raised $100,000, and that was a seed. And when I started Service, I raised $500,000 in our first week, and that was called a pre-seed. So there's been a lot of inflation in those terms of being thrown around. But money is truly a commodity. I mean, there are so many seed funds. There are so many pre-seed funds that do seed rounds. There are so many late-stage funds that have specialized seed focuses to shepherd you in when you're ready for your A. I don't think it's hard to raise right now. If you're not raising money in this market, you either aren't good at pitching or your idea is not connecting. But it's not hard to raise money right now.
Yeah, you can always try again too. That's
You can try it 1,000 times. There are 1,000 seed funds in Los Angeles.
Everybody likes a comeback story too, so that's a good story for me to write.
Yeah.
Proper team building is really important. What kind of advice do you have for either going alone or picking partners and employees?
Well, I had a co-founder at Mobile Roadie that we worked very well, but we decided not to start our next company together. I had a co-founder at the Facebook for Moms. I've actually had a co-founder at every company except for Service. And I'm very happy not to have a co-founder. I think that co-founders are great because there's someone else in the world that lives, breathes, and sleeps your business like you. And it's hard to hire. You can hire for that, but it's harder to hire for that. Usually it's a co-founder type character. If you've done it before and you can handle the immense psychological stress and trauma that come with building a startup, I would say you don't really need a co-founder unless it's truly complementary. Like, you're doing something medically based and you're not a doctor, and it doesn't work without an MD on board. Like, that totally makes sense. With Service, it was like, yeah, could I go out and find someone who's an expert in customer service? Sure, but I'm pretty sure I could learn. I don't think customer service is that complicated. Do I need a technical co-founder? That's something that's thrown around a lot. I'm not an engineer, but I've hired a lot of engineers. And so if you know how to hire engineers and inspire engineers and get them to work well together, I don't think you need a technical co-founder. A lot of VCs like that. Yeah, I think it really depends, but my advice, my wife is also an entrepreneur. She started her first company while she was pregnant and raised money a year and a half ago. And
What was
it's called Ritual. It's a subscription vitamin company for women, ritual.com. And she spent a lot of time telling me how she needed a co-founder, and I spent a lot of time telling her that I didn't think she needed a co-founder, because I kept asking her, tell me why you need a co-founder. Well, I just think it's hard, and I want someone there at the end of the day. I'm like, you have me. Okay, well, I need someone to already set up different operational systems. Like, great, hire a COO. Okay, well, what about the finances? Like, I'm not great with numbers. I'm like, hire a CFO. Like, there's all these things you can hire. And so I don't think it makes sense. A lot of the time, the reason people get co-founders, I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
And why do you think they do that, though? Is it
It's
a
easier.
fear thing?
It's a fear thing. Yeah, it's easier. Well, and it can be a friend thing. Like, you're having beers with your buddy, dreaming about the future. You're like, yeah, this idea, yeah, that resonates with me. All right, let's just go do it. And you're not really thinking, I like this person and I hang out with them on the weekends, but does it actually make sense to, get married from a business point of view and start a company together? And it may and it may not.
And sometimes those fears can turn into a dangerous conversation where you both have that idea and then you run away and do that idea, and then that person comes back and you have some litigation, for example. That's happened in LA a little bit, too much.
Sure.
Telecommuting can be effective in businesses, but can it really work in a startup, and how does that play out?
I'm not a fan of it. I know there's a movement right now look, there's a lot of tools that didn't exist years ago. Slack didn't exist 10 years ago. Google Hangouts or a million equivalents that exist 10 years ago. Like, there's a lot of ways for teams to actually work really well together and, you know, almost be there. But I just don't think it's the same thing. I get so much benefit from sitting with my team in the office, overhearing things, they overhear me, you know, bumping into each other at lunch or getting a snack or whatever, and actually those conversations matter. I was in London 2 weeks ago listening to Marissa Meyer, who just left Yahoo, and she got asked, it was very controversial, and she said that people could not work from home anymore.
I remember that.
And, you know, you had people like Richard Branson shit-talking her on Twitter, like, this is wrong, and this is not the future. But no one has the context. When you're the CEO, you have the context. And she was saying that she got many, many complaints from Yahoos, that's what they call people who work at Yahoo, that they couldn't run effective meetings because they would spend a lot of time playing catch up with people that were not there once they got back. And that's really distracting. When you try and turn around a huge company that feels like the Titanic, it's not something you want. So I think with small startups, I'm not a huge fan. I've made accommodations to people that I find really valuable on my team that are like, look, I want to work from home on Fridays. I'm going to work my ass off, but I want to work from home on Fridays. And, you know, we work stuff out, but in general, I'm not a huge fan of it.
Right, this is exactly why I'm moving from LA to New York City in like 17 days.
That's the worst decision you can make.
I'm gonna miss this place, but yeah, it's all about, you know, that office structure. If the media comes out here, I'm back. But yeah, that is my game plan, is to, you know, work in person. And I definitely agree with you on that one.
Who moves to New York City in July?
Rent is bad. Yeah, I'll tell you that, and small. So yeah. Networking is really important, that's why we're all here. But you know, sometimes you introduce yourself to somebody and you want to stay in touch with them, but it's kind of hard to stay in touch. What suggestions do you have for keeping in contact with someone who could be a mentor?
Well, I've gotten a lot of value out of LinkedIn. Well, two things. So, even before LinkedIn, when I meet somebody that I want to stay in touch with, I'm extremely anal about recording their information very quickly in my address book, and I always put a note about how I met them, where I was, and if I remember something special about that person, I'll put that. So it'll literally be like, you know, Matt in Santa Monica in June, and he was about to move to New York. Like, it'll be that detailed. And so the cool thing about that is you really can remember people that way. And if you need help with something later on, it's extremely useful content. And then if I want to stay in touch with someone, I will LinkedIn them. LinkedIn I have found to be one of the best business development tools ever created, and one of the best recruiting tools ever created. So I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn.
That's good. What app do you use? What's your contacts app? Is it just the standard one on the phone, and you just jot in some notes?
Yep.
Sometimes you want to be in that moment and continue to talk to the person, get their contact information, and you don't do that. So where do you find time to do that? Are you just making
on
it?
a plane going home, or you know, if I'm at a conference, if people still have business cards, and everyone does, I don't really, but you know, I'll take business cards. There's ways. Most often, if you know people don't create business cards anymore, just send someone an email, and you both have each other's email.
That's good to know. Okay, entrepreneurs, they always deal with that struggle with work-life balance. Do you have suggestions, you know, going through so many years of being an entrepreneur?
If you live in Los Angeles, arrange your life so you don't have a long commute. Honestly, my office is 3 blocks from my house. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter. It would suck if I had to drive an hour each day and not get to see her before she went to bed. But because I can leave the office at 7 and be home by 7:05, and it's great. So I think the commute thing is really important. I think it's really hard because, you know, I'm supposed to be going on vacation tomorrow, and I don't know why we're going. I don't know why you're going to New York, and I don't know why I'm going to Palm Springs in June, but I'm supposed to be on vacation. But I'm going to have my phone, and I'm still going to get emails. It's a work day and whatever, and it's hard. You know, my wife and I try to put our phones away when we come home, and that hour to 2 hours that we spend with our daughter is, you know, there's no phones. And we try to do it on the weekends. We kind of suck at it because we're both entrepreneurs, and we're both weirdly, like, we sometimes raise money at the same time, and sometimes we're in the same firms, and it gets all weird, but we really try, if we can, to sync up on our quiet time and put the phone away. It's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I will not miss about LA is the traffic. So that is one
Yeah,
thing.
New York is no traffic.
Right?
That is such bullshit, you know. I've heard so many people complain about LA's traffic. Let me tell you something. I was in Menlo Park and I was trying to get to a ball game in San Francisco before I made a 10 p.m. flight, and I literally wound up just going to SFO because we couldn't get there.
Right.
I have been in New York and it just doesn't move. You know, like I think yes, LA has a lot of cars and whatever, but at least it moves. Even if it's a slow move, it's constant. Right. And I think LA has a totally bad rap for traffic that isn't totally deserved compared to other cities. I don't think New York.
Okay. If Elon Musk comes out with the
he's already in his
boring
final
tunnels, right? If he invents that and that actually gets complete, I'm moving back. So that's a deal.
I'll let him know.
So I met a fascinating entrepreneur. This is now a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago. He was creating a drone that was fused with a 3D printer, and I kind of like this question because it showed.
What does that mean?
So what it could do is, say there was a flood happening, it could use the drone to create some perimeter around the house, for example. And I don't know if this is taken off, but I found it to be an inspiring story because it combined technology with humanities, and a technology that's kind of outlawed in a lot of areas because people are afraid of drones. It has bad rap. How do you think that the entrepreneurial businesses out there can infuse the humanities more and do good in addition to trying to make money?
It's a great question. I think my next company will absolutely deal with something like global warming or crime or education or some sort of societal ill that, yes, I feel good if I get you a $100 voucher from American Airlines, but I'm not changing the world in a macro sense, unfortunately, and there's not. And most businesses aren't. Most businesses are there to make a product or service that people want and people are happy. But I think it's critical. I feel like a hypocrite for complaining about our presidents every day, but not running for public office. I think that's wrong. And so I think it's a problem in our society that the people that are sharpest, usually at solving problems, don't choose to go into political office where you can actually make a big impact. This idea that we just rely on private companies to change the world doesn't always work. Anyway, so to answer your question, I don't know, because service is not something that's altruistic and it's solving global warming or something like that, but I think it's super important. I love the one-for-one models like Tom's Shoes and things like that. I think are great. Yeah, there's the 1% pledge. There's something in the UK that started in the UK where you pledge to give, I think it's 2% of your personal earnings from your next exit to a charity. They don't tell you which one, just something to do good in the world. If your company doesn't do something that impacts global warming or some of our big problems, maybe that's the way to do it. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
It's a important question.
You're doing your part for global warming by riding your bike everywhere. And I want to hear about this because I Uber here, but you rode a bike from West Hollywood, was it? Can you tell me what went into that Sunday crazy decision?
So I'm born and raised in LA. There could not have been someone who cared more about cars than me. I got my driver's license at 9 a.m. on my 16th birthday at the DMV. Competing in high school to have a cooler car than my friends and all this stuff. And about 5 or 6 years ago, my now wife, girlfriend at the time, got me a bike, and she lived in Venice, and she's like, oh, we can use this to bike around the weekends. It was like a really shitty bike. It was 1970s Schwinn, like really heavy and whatever. And I turned into Lance Armstrong, minus the fraud. I really did. And I started going further and further, and then I was like, this is weird. I go to the gym every day, but I drive there. That seems weird. So then I started biking to the gym, and then it's like, well, I have a meeting, is it weird if I just bike there? I don't know, let me try it. And it just kept going. And it's gotten to the point where unless I'm going to the airport or going on a road trip, I just don't use my car. I don't enjoy being in the car anymore. And, you know, it took me 45 minutes to get here from West Hollywood. It takes, without traffic, 30 minutes, and then you gotta find parking and whatever. Right now, if you try to go from here to West Hollywood, what time is it, 7? It's gonna take you 45 minutes to an hour at least. So there's a weird conception, especially in Los Angeles, because it's so spread out, that you can't, it's not a bikeable city, and you can't get around, and cars are crazy, and it takes too long, and whatever, and it's all wrong. Especially Santa Monica, it's very bike lane friendly, but the whole city is changing. You know, Garcetti is doing a lot to create these great streets, and there's protected bike lanes opening up. And anyway, I'm just super excited. The one dumb thing that the city has done is, you know, unfortunately, it's many different cities, right? It's Beverly Hills, it's Santa Monica, it's West Hollywood, it's LA, they're all their own cities. The bike share systems don't work together. You cannot go out there and pick up a blue bike and ride it to Beverly Hills and dock it, which is like the stupidest thing in the world. So that needs to change. But I'm hopeful. Metro has their own bike share, which is compatible with the city's bike share, but Culver City just signed on to Metro, even though they're on the city. So like, it'll change, it'll get there.
It seems like that's the Wild West, and solving that problem would be a good...
It's just a stupid problem to have to begin with. Like, bike sharing should have been a countywide initiative, because yes, there's a lot of different cities, and it should have been implemented. And somehow, Metro did their own thing, and each city did their own thing. And they bought a lot of times from the same company that supplied these cities, but they're not compatible. It's like government at its worst.
Right. Maybe that's what you can solve with your
I hope I solved, that is an important problem, but I hope I solved even more important problems if I ever did that.
You know, when I was here last time, I was talking to people afterwards at the networking part of this, and that, you know, they have a solid job, but, you know, some people don't know when to leave and you know, go with that passion, go with that startup idea, that dream idea that they have. That's really, really tough decision for a lot of people. They do have a paycheck coming in, but they also have this, you know, maybe $1 million idea. Do you have any advice for those people?
I'm such a bad person to ask this question because I've never had a job. And I don't say that with pride. I mean, I may be a better CEO if I had worked for somebody and know what that feels like, and I don't. And, you know, hopefully I will never have a job at this point, but like, I think I'd be better off. I think it only makes sense if you literally can't get it out of your mind. It's like eating away at you. Because it's so hard compared to having a job. It really is. Like, entrepreneurship is brutal and unforgiving, and most days you feel like that tall and you just think you suck. And so having a job is this like stable base, and it's like the opposite of that. And so I think the only way it makes sense to leave the stability of a job is if you literally can't stop thinking about something. When my wife was thinking, she used to be on the investor side. When she was thinking about starting her company, we had a conversation. She's like, should I just, you know, I could go be a partner at a fund and like, you got a great life. Like, I have an investor, anyone know Paige Craig, Arena Ventures? Like, Paige tells me all the time how much better his life is than mine. Not because he has more money than me, but because being an investor is simply way easier than being an entrepreneur. You have to be right 100% of the time if your company is going to succeed as an entrepreneur. Paige has to be right 2% of the time, and you can make his whole fund. So it's a completely different thing. And so, anyway, we had a whole conversation about should she get a stable job and be an investor and have like a much easier life, and I was the entrepreneur of the family, and we would balance it. But she couldn't stop talking about vitamins. Like, every time we sit down for dinner, she's telling me something else about a vitamin or why the industry was messed up, and I'm like, you have to just go do this, and we'll figure it out. And, you know, I don't know if I'd recommend, you know, a husband and wife working together as entrepreneurs. But it's kind of cool that, you know, she can ask me a question about a term sheet and I know the answer, or I know the terminology and I can do the same and she does the same. And I don't know. So anyway, to answer your question, I think it has to be something you literally can't get out of your head and you just have to do. Otherwise, don't leave your stable job, because having a job is really nice most days compared to worried about making payrolls.
Very good. A lot of this may be up your alley because a lot of companies out there have they amass users, but they don't yet retain a profit. You know, Snapchat would be one of them where they're.
We were one of them up until very recently.
Yeah. So how you know, sometimes it's 5-6 years before a company like that can actually amass a profit and show to their investors that they're making money. How do you feel about that sort of game that's going on?
I think it's rare these days. It used to be that was the game, right? And it didn't, profits didn't matter, user growth mattered, eyeballs mattered, retention mattered, but figure out money later. And I just think those days are mostly over. I agree that Facebook would not be Facebook if they had charged a subscription fee. So there are times when it makes sense, or if they turned on ads too early, because the ads would have sucked and people probably would have used the site. Same with Instagram. But in general, it's cool. It's cooler to make a profit. It's cooler to have revenue. I think we made a mistake with Service. We spent a year and a half not charging people on learning mode. I had a VC tell me early on, the best companies are monetizing early. And I just, we're not ready. And part of it was a reverse reaction to Mobile Roadie, because we charged from day one at Mobile Roadie. And weirdly enough, we got penalized for it in the VC world. We try to go raise money, and they'd be like, well, but you're already charging, and you're only doing $1 million a year, and last year was 500, and yeah, that's 100% growth, but it's only $1 million, and where does this really go? Like it's weird. If you show VCs revenue too early and it's not growing like crazy, you shoot yourself in the foot. And so with Service, I'm like, okay, that's bad, so I'm not going to show any revenue, and I'm just going to keep raising it. Actually, it worked great. I mean, 3 months after we did our pre-seed, I did a over $3 million seed, and that's a really big seed even by today's standards, and I had no revenue. And so selling the dream is often easier than selling reality. So I guess my advice would be, once you turn on revenue, make sure that it scales very quickly, because otherwise it can be very unforgiving.
Okay, I have two last questions for you. Just going off that previous question about the job, when do you leave the job? When do you think it's appropriate to go back to school and maybe get a business degree or something to help you out versus having the street smarts? So how do you feel about that?
I think school's a waste of time. I really do. I think that I tried, so I only have a bachelor's degree. I tried to drop out of USC multiple times, and my parents were very good at Jewish guilt. Guilted me. And parents always want you to have a fallback plan. That feels good. But my education was 90% street smarts and learning and listening to guest speakers and reading books and going to other things that weren't USC. And if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, it's not because they got an A in their business class. I think school's great to be able to read a financial statement and be able to talk to someone intelligently, but I remember, I'll tell you when I got most frustrated about it. We had a feasibility analysis assignment, and I was running my business while in school, and I really wanted to leave school to focus on the business, and I was a senior, and I was killing me to still be in school, but I did it. And the teacher was like, you have to have a business plan to start a business, and before you have a business plan, you have to write a feasibility analysis. I had never heard of this. I'm like, well, I just started my business, and I started getting customers and revenue. Isn't that good? No, you need to do it this way. So I started reading it, and I'm like, well, I'm going to cheat on this assignment. I'm going to write the feasibility analysis about my own business that I already know works, as if I hadn't started yet. And the guy didn't know what to do with me. He's like, is this plagiarism? No, he really wrote it, but it's about a business that already started, but it's his business. Okay, fine, I'll let him pass. But it's all bullshit. Like what they teach kids, that you have to have a feasibility analysis and then a business plan before you start a business. I'm sorry. VCs don't invest, especially at the seed stage, based on an Excel spreadsheet and a business plan. In fact, I would even go so far as to say, if you walk into a VC meeting with a detailed 5-year plan and Excel spreadsheet projections, and you hand them a business plan, they're going to just laugh, and you're not going to raise. They invest in you. Now, at a Series A and a Series B and Series C, yeah, the model has to work, and your customer acquisition cost has to be lower than your lifetime value, and all those things have to work. But at the early stage, school just teaches you all the wrong stuff. And so, to me, when I interview people, if they have an MBA, honestly, I'm more suspicious, because I think that an MBA gives you a false sense of confidence that you know what you're talking about. And I don't think you know what you're talking about unless you've actually done it. So I'm the wrong person to ask that.
I went to journalism school, and I started a video game website when I was 14. And in 2006, we were learning about how to insert hyperlinks in, and I was beaming from ear to ear because I'm like, this is stupid. I know all this, so I definitely concur with that. Last question is, it's been 10 years since the iPhone came out. I brought a little prop, and this thing actually still works. What do you think about this device that was, that launched 10 years ago today? And where do you think we'll be at in 10 years so that we can hop aboard that Wild West train and start a new business then?
So, first of all, what I think about that device is when it came out, I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, but I didn't think I needed it. And by the way, I was weird, I never BlackBerry. So I literally had a flip phone when that thing came out. And I went into the Apple store, it just moved, but it used to be at Wilshire and 3rd Street Promenade. And I literally couldn't get myself to leave the store without buying it. It was magnetic. And initially it was just cool, but it wasn't that functional, if you remember. And I think at the time we had an Exchange server, I couldn't even connect my email, it was all messed up. But it kept getting better, and I remember a few months after I bought it, being on a trip in Costa Rica and being on Wi-Fi in the middle of the jungle, and I was on the internet in 2007 in the middle of the jungle in Costa Rica, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. Now you'd just be roaming for free on T-Mobile and it wouldn't be a big deal, but it was a big deal. And so it's changed everything, I'm going on vacation tomorrow, I'm not taking my laptop, I'm just taking my phone. I've gone on business trips for a week and not needed my laptop and been totally functional, and that's revolutionary. I think one of the most revolutionary things that doesn't get talked about that much is Google Maps. Mm-hmm. I'm a cyclist, and I was in London for a week, 2 weeks ago, and I decided I wasn't going to use a car there either, or the tube, and I was just going to bike or walk. And because of Google Maps, you can go to a place where you don't know exactly where to go, and just like in a car, it tells you exactly where to go, and you can live like a local. It's amazing, and that works almost anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. So, 10 years from now, I don't know. I think the form factor will be different. I think it won't necessarily be a phone. It's almost weird that we call that a phone because it's probably the least used phone ever. You're always using something else, you're not calling.
PDA was just so uncool.
PDA is not cool,
No.
Phone's not cool. I tell my daughter, she's a year and a half, I'm like, it's a phone. And she pushes a button and she sees a picture or a video or whatever, and it's weird that that's a phone. But anyway, so I don't know if it's being called a phone. I think that the idea of having mixed reality as something like a contact lens or something like that is super interesting. I don't think that's that far-fetched.
I had Google Glass for a long time. That was not cool for a little while.
So nerdy though.
Yeah.
My wife had it too, and I couldn't get into it the way it looked. But that's changing, right? Like Spectacles is really cool, and Spectacles does something different than Google Glass, but these are all evolving very quickly. So yeah, I'm not even gonna be arrogant enough to even try to predict what that's going to be in 10 years. I never thought 10 years ago that would turn into what I have in my pocket, enabling me to not only go anywhere in the world and experience it like a local, but do business anywhere in the world without needing a computer. Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable. Right.
I'm just going to be arrogant and wager that we'll be carrying an iPad mini around that you kind of fold out. Because if the new phones are glass on the back, that's got to be used as a screen eventually. And then fold it out because they're making foldable tablets and foldable phones in concept. And so maybe you're on a train and then you kind of have an iPad mini and then you fold it down into a phone that, not quite this size, this is very small, but that is my guess.
Well, so just to add to your prediction, I think it'll be even smaller, and it will project the screen. And project, I don't even know if you'll need a keyboard anymore, but it will project the control device and project the screen from something much smaller than that.
I like that. No, I could definitely use that. Those are all the questions I have. Now we want to turn it over to you if you have any questions. Yes, first one.
So you mentioned how you use LinkedIn. I'd be very curious to hear from you how you actually use it, what made it effective for you.
So anytime I'm looking for someone to hire, all the good people already have jobs. So I'm typing in the title of the person I want, I give the search criteria, just different cities or different companies or whatever, and I have a list of prospects. If I see one of my employees spending too much time on LinkedIn, I get nervous. But it's an amazing recruiting tool. Because I built out my network on LinkedIn, and just my business network in general, in real life, I feel like I'm able to connect with a C-level person at almost any company in the world, which is an unbelievable tool and didn't exist 10 years ago. So it's really, the way I use it is either business development and trying, and I don't, by the way, LinkedIn has a messaging system, which I hate. They have this who can intro me tool, which I absolutely hate, but the way I use it is it tells you who you have in common. So I figure out who I have in common, and then I'll text that person or email that person to get a warm introduction. And I would never know we know the same person if it wasn't for LinkedIn.
What stands out? I know you said you do search for people on LinkedIn. What can someone do to stand out for someone like you, for example?
I don't think it. Just be yourself. I mean, well, I'd say one thing you don't do is you don't talk in third person and say, Michael is a very successful entrepreneur. Like, I hate that shit. And a lot of people do it on LinkedIn. Like, LinkedIn is not your pulpit to just say how great you are. Just tell me what you've done. And if I'm interested, I'll reach out. And the best people don't self-aggrandize like that.
I gotta go edit my third person. I know it doesn't connect to AT&T anymore. Any other questions?
Just first appreciate your insight perspective on things. It's really interesting and appreciate it. In regards to service, just curious, you mentioned like in the last 3 months how it's gone from very small to on a daily basis you're surpassing everything. What's been the key driver to that? What you put in place to get to that point? What was the biggest adjustment?
It was making a lot of hard decisions at the beginning of this year. So I spent 8 months and over $1 million of the $3 million we raised building this chatbot product that in January decided not to ship. And when you tell your engineers, I know you just spent the last 8 months and we're all really excited, but we're going in different directions, it's really hard. I lost engineers through it, morale takes a plummet. So that was the first hard decision. Next hard decision was, all right, we got to have a business model, so we're going to start charging 30% of what we get people. And we're going to take a credit card up front. There was a lot of debate. Should we PayPal? Should we? And I'm like, I don't want to be a collection agency. We're taking a credit card up front. Second thing. The third thing was it was optional to sync your inbox. Now, the problem with that was it gave people choice. But unless you gave us access to your inbox to pull out your flight itineraries, it was all manual and the magic of service didn't really shine. It was much too much work for the user. So I made a decision that yes, we're going to lose some people that have security concerns and won't sync their email, but a lot of people will, and it's probably enough of the world for us to survive. And the last decision was just to focus on flights. We're not going to be the on-demand customer service company, because no one really knows what that means anyway. We're going to be the company that gets you paid if your flight's delayed or canceled. It's a really simple message. You'll remember it, you'll tell your friends, anyone that travels likes that idea. And so those 4 things enable us to build this really focused product that's still half-baked. It'll be much more baked when we launch a new website soon. And buy users and serve them profitably. And so my growth guy is able to buy users. We spend $8 to get someone that's willing to sync their inbox and puts down a credit card. And we make $117 off of them over a year, half of which we make in the first 45 days. So all of a sudden, each user we spend money on, we're profitable.
I didn't realize it that all in the last 3 months. I apologize.
What's that?
Because you already explained how you transitioned to focusing on flights.
Yeah, that's only been 6
that
months ago all those decisions were made.
Wow, that's congrats.
And only 3 months ago the product shipped that had that focus.
The fact that you're from LA, when you decided to go this route after school, did you already have a built-in network of people that you could go to for advice or for money, or was that built in? And how accessible is that to people who are either just starting out or not from this area?
Well, most people aren't from LA that are in LA. It's a weird city. And so I think it's super accessible. You just got to put in the effort and go out there and meet people. I think it's a quality over quantity game, like most things in life. And so it's not how many people are in your Rolodex, your address book. It's do you know the right 10 people to get you where you need to go? One of my investors beat in my head that you should always go to the top and work your way down. And that sounds so obvious, but it completely changes everything once you do it. The other thing is I think people like helping other people they like. So assuming you're not an asshole out there and you're just taking from people and not giving, I don't think it's that hard to get people to make intros or like help you out along the way. So yeah, I mean when I graduated SC, there were some people, but I wasn't set up. My dad was a lawyer. If I wanted to be a lawyer, I probably would be super connected in like firms and whatever. When my mom was a teacher, if I wanted to go into education, I probably would be, but like I didn't do either one of those things. So I don't think about that much.
How did you do during the Spirit Airlines dispute with their pilots?
I'll tell you something. Spirit Airlines has a really bad rap. They have this reputation of nickel and diming and many other things. They are probably our most generous airline in terms of giving out compensation.
Wow.
There's caveats to it. So American might give you a $100 voucher and Spirit might give you a $100 voucher. Americans last a year, Spirit's last 3 months.
Yes.
That is different. And it must be used by the passenger they give it to, and the name has to match exactly where Spirit can be used by anyone. So there's differences. But overall, from my perspective, Spirit is incredibly generous and is trying to make up for their reputation. And frankly, I think consumers a lot of times just love to whine. I mean, people want
You're right.
a first-class experience on an airplane with a meal, with a movie, with Wi-Fi all for free, but they want to pay what Spirit charges. And the economics don't work. And so, like, there's this big thing, United released these basic fares where you don't even earn miles, and you can't get upgraded, even if you have status and all this stuff, and the world went insane. And it's like, you getting what you pay for. The public wants cheaper tickets, so they're giving them what they want, and they're adding upsells, but people still complain. So, having said all that, yeah, I think Spirit in its early days did a few things that were very controversial, but you know what? The CEO of Ryanair is on record as experimenting with charging people to go to the bathroom on a plane. So there's a lot of ways to do it.
Everybody in the aisle seat really appreciates that concept. On that note, how long can you wait if you're signing up for service and you have a complaint? How long can you wait? Is there an expiration of like, hey, I lost my bags 3 months ago?
Yeah, so we're not doing bags yet. We're just doing flight delays and flight cancellations. It's up to a year.
Okay.
The cool thing about the service is when you first sign up, in about 5 minutes, assuming everything works correctly, we will find all the flights you've taken over the last year. We'll figure out which ones we've delayed or canceled. We'll add up how much money we think we can get you. So that's a cool method. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so you started off by talking about the stickiness problem, and you defined it both as return customer and also referrals. Then just a couple of questions ago, you talked about these methods for focus. Is the focus the way you solve the stickiness problem?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those two are connected. That's what.
Absolutely. If I sat here and pitched you guys this service, like I started talking about at the beginning, that you never have to wait on hold, it's cool. But I don't think you're really going to remember that or tell very many people to use it yourself. If any of you travel with any consistency, you may check out what we do because it's going to get you value. So yes, I think the focus is how we solve the stickiness problem. By the way, we also have a referral system where you get a friend to sign up and you get a free one. That's working much better now since it came.
But the stickiness problem was really solved by the ability to have a story that somebody else could say in 2 or 3 seconds and focused it.
Yeah, it became memorable.
Yeah. Okay, next question. You mentioned $8 as an acquisition cost. So what's your funnel? What are you using Facebook advertising? Or are you using,
So we're in a weird spot right now because we don't have an Android app and our website doesn't fully reflect our new mission yet. So the only thing that we could really get people to do is download our iOS app. And that limited us to the channels we use. Right now it's Instagram. Instagram is totally kicking ass for us.
I didn't know that you could get money from the airlines if
Most
your
people
flight
don't.
is delayed.
Well, it's vouchers or miles, just to be clear. It's not cash.
Okay, because I just came back from a trip to North Carolina. There.
This isn't the first time this.
sign up?
No, I mean, I wound up being 3 hours late, and I noticed when I went at the airline, we went on the tarmac for 2 hours, and then they listed their takeoff as the time they left the gate.
Well, but they can't lie about their arrival time, even if they did that.
They arrived late, they arrived, and then I missed my connecting flight. So
Sign up, I'd be
what-
happy to help you. Yeah.
You only get vouchers or miles. How do you get your money?
We take a credit card up front, and we charge you 30% of the value of whatever we get.
Whatever you're, okay, makes sense.
Back there.
Hey, it's been a long time. Good to see you. Allende, Page Radio.
Oh, yeah, of course.
We'll catch up after, but can you talk a little bit about your pre-seed round and whether or not you had a prototype time?
I I did, yeah. I started Service, I went to Squarespace, I built the website myself in about an hour. It was the most simple website ever. It was, I think I had a logo, I don't remember. But it said, give me your name, give me your email, and tell me what your problem is. It's like literally the simplest thing. I was lucky enough to get Service on Twitter, so it's @Service, and I started tweeting people complaining from that, saying, let me help you, go to this website. So in the pre-seed round, I think in the first week I had 30 people maybe fill out that form, but it was enough to show that people cared, and it was enough to show that we could acquire people for free just by tweeting at them, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I think it's super important to have some sort of, any little bit of traction you can show an investor in the pre-seed.
Since you are a serial entrepreneur, at what point do you, so you're sitting on, you and your wife are sitting on ideas. There's one that you have, and it's passionate, and it keeps you up at night, but you've got Service going on. At what point do you start working on this new idea? Or do you just put it in the drawer and wait till you have your exit strategy with Service and pick it up?
Yeah, I don't even, I mean, I think about, like, as I go throughout my day, oh, that can be improved or that can be changed, but if you're being just, there are people I know that they're always doing something different, they're doing 5 things at once, and like that never ever works, unless maybe you're Elon Musk. And so I think if you're too distracted by an idea that's not what you're doing, there's something wrong, and maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing.
So the travel space has a lot of rules and laws, but also industry practices. As you say, the consumer doesn't know about a lot of those. Do you just want to expand within the vertical of flights or go into other industries? Because, for instance, feel free to run with it, but people are more mobile and apartments are charging cleaning fees, which are ridiculous. I mean, it goes to the service level, and it's considerably more value than what you lost on a flight.
Well, we've done the reverse, right? So we would take that off. Like, we used to do everything, and now we're just doing this. I think, so to give you a number, there's 130 million people in the US every year that are delayed or canceled. And by the way, there are no laws in the US that protect the consumer and guarantee them compensation. Europe is different. Nothing like that in the US. So your tarmac thing, and you're waiting 3 hours on the tarmac, the airline could get fined, but the airline pays to the Department of Transportation. You don't get anything. So what we're doing, the airlines are not required to give you anything, but they often do to make up for the experience that you have. I think there's plenty of red meat in just travel, and there's plenty of red meat just in flights right now. We'll expand to doing lost bags. Maybe we'll expand to hotels and other areas, but there's so much in this vertical. I think we'll stay in this vertical.
Very good. Just one more.
If the airlines are not required to do anything, how do you end up connecting? I mean, is it just random that they decide to pay one person?
It's a little bit better than random. Are you flying coach business or first? Do you have status on the airline? How much did you pay for your ticket? And what's the reason for the delay? Weather, air traffic control, their plane was broken, different things. A combination of all those is how they decide if they're going to give you anything and how much to give you.
And so you just, you don't guarantee to your...
We never guarantee.
Yeah. So
There's no guarantee.
What percentage would you say of the complaints actually find satisfaction?
46%.
We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah.